All right, let's dive right into today's explainer, A Seat at the Table, the tale of two realities. Today we're unpacking an incredible historical story about profound brokenness, absolutely terrifying expectations, and a reality of grace that is so shocking, it honestly kind of defies human logic. We're looking at this beautifully ancient narrative because it acts as a direct mirror to our modern lives. It literally asks us to look at our own deep-seated fears and compare them to the wild possibility of unconditional acceptance. So even though this historical account is thousands of years old, the psychological journey at its core, it's incredibly relevant to us right now, today.
So let me ask you, have you ever felt like you just don't belong? Put yourself in that scenario for a second. You walk into a room, maybe it's a new school, a super high-stakes meeting at work, or even just a gathering with a group of friends, and instantly this little voice in your head whispers, yeah, this isn't my place. Everyone else seems to just fit together perfectly, right? They know the jokes, they know the rhythm, and you're just standing there trying your absolute hardest not to be noticed. It's such a heavy, isolating feeling. It's that classic imposter syndrome convincing you that if people really, truly knew you, there's no way they'd want you there.
Which brings us to section 1, the fall from royalty, from palace to hiding. To truly get our heads around how to overcome this deeply rooted feeling of not belonging, we need to examine the tragic backstory of a man in the Bible named Mephibosheth. He was a guy who intimately knew that exact agonizing feeling of being an outsider. But shockingly, he didn't start out that way. He was actually the grandson of a king. He was born into pure royalty, surrounded by privilege, power, and the expectation of this brilliant, untouchable future. But tragically, his life was shattered almost instantly. I mean, look at how fast this all happens. At practically the exact moment, his grandfather's kingdom collapses in battle and his family completely loses power. Absolute chaos descends on the palace. Imagine the sheer panic of that day. A desperate nurse, just trying to save this young royal heir from incoming enemies, scoops him up and runs. But in her terror and the utter chaos of the moment, she drops him. From that single devastating second onward, he's permanently injured. He loses the ability to walk. His entire life trajectory is completely broken by circumstances entirely outside his control. And you know, this wasn't because he made a bad choice. It wasn't because he deserved it. It was simply because life can violently break people without asking for permission. And that massive tragedy leads us directly to section 2, hiding in Lodabar and the reality of the void. Because instead of growing up in a palace as a royal grandson with the world at his fingertips, he ends up spending his entire life in hiding. Why? Well, here is a rather surprising and brutal fact about ancient history. In those days, when a new king rose to power, they didn't just casually exile the previous ruling family. Oh no. It was customary to completely eliminate the old king's entire bloodline to prevent any future uprisings. The transition of power was ruthless. So for Mephibosheth, surviving meant disappearing completely. So he lives out his days in exile in a desolate place called Lodabar. And this word itself is incredibly revealing. In its original language, Lodabar literally translates to no pasture, no provision, and no future. It perfectly defines a life of total isolation, emptiness, and forgottenness. I mean, think about the immense psychological weight of waking up every single day in a place that fundamentally means you have no future. That just becomes his entire existence. He's a forgotten cripple, hiding in the dust, completely overlooked, and desperately hoping to remain out of the picture just so he can stay alive. But then, everything changes in section 3, the king's summons, marked by a terrifying knock at the door. After years and years of successfully hiding in the shadows, the ultimate inciting incident happens. The dust settles outside his home in Lodabar, and a heavy knock comes at his door. The messengers stand outside and deliver a message that absolutely freezes his blood. The king wants to see you. Now, for a crippled exile from a fallen, disgraced dynasty, being summoned by King David, who is the newly established most powerful man in the entire nation, is emphatically not good news. Put yourself in his shoes for a second and imagine that racing internal monologue. This is it. I've been found out. I'm finished. There's nowhere left to run, and there is absolutely no escape. Every single fear he has harbored for his entire life is suddenly standing right at his front door. What we have here is a profound clash of two deeply opposing realities. On one hand, you have Mephibosheth's expectations. Given everything he knows about how the world and power actually work, he expects pure fear, impending judgment, and swift elimination. That's just the reality of the world he lives in. But on the other hand, King David is operating in a totally different reality, one of recognition, stunning kindness, and complete restoration. It's a massive collision between the brutal expectations of the world and a totally unmerited, shocking grace.
We see this clash unfold beautifully in Section 4, the unexpected invitation, where we witness the ultimate twist of grace. Because Mephibosheth still cannot walk, he has to be physically carried from his hiding place, brought into the royal palace, and placed directly in front of King David. He immediately falls face down on the floor. And look, this isn't just a polite bow of respect. This is absolute paralyzing terror. He is bracing for the executioner's strike. But then, David speaks his name, not with the booming anger of a conqueror, but with gentle recognition.
Instead of handing down a death sentence, David tells him, "Don't be afraid. I will show you kindness, and you will always eat at my table." I want you to really think about the immense weight of that word, always. He doesn't say, hey, you can eat here today. He doesn't say you can stay as long as you're useful or as long as you don't cause trouble. Always. David completely replaces the absolute certainty of judgment and death with pure, unfiltered, permanent mercy. It's a total game changer.
And Mephibosheth's response is incredibly profound. Still trembling on the floor, he asks, "Who am I that you would notice someone like me?" This question hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures exactly how true grace feels when you first encounter it. It feels completely uncomfortable. It triggers massive imposter syndrome. It feels deeply, fundamentally undeserved. And quite frankly, it feels almost unbelievable that someone with so much power would freely offer so much kindness to someone with absolutely nothing to give in return.
David's actions go far beyond just letting him live, though. This is a complete, multi-layered restoration of a deeply broken man. First, he spares his life, pulling him right back from the brink of execution. Second, he restores his identity by officially giving back all the land and wealth that his family originally lost. And third, he secures his future by giving him a permanent seated place at the royal table. He's treating him not as a defeated enemy, but as a direct member of his own family. And that brings us to our final part, Section 5, a seat at the table, which serves as a powerful mirror to our own lives. We really have to pause here and reflect, because this isn't just an interesting piece of ancient history. This is our story. The emotional journey from hiding in shame to being invited to the table is completely universal. Because the reality is, we all have our own Lodabar, don't we? We all have our own seasons of hiding, those desolate places of emptiness where we feel like we have no future. We all have parts of our lives marked by deep insecurities. Maybe it's a string of failed relationships, dead-end careers, or just a secret shame we carry around every day. There are things we didn't choose, things we absolutely cannot fix on our own, and past mistakes we desperately wish we could just hide from the world. And deep down, because of those things, we often expect the world to respond to us with distance, rejection, and judgment. But here is the most beautiful, breathtaking detail of this entire historical account. Every single time Mephibosheth sits at the king's table, his brokenness, his crippled legs is completely covered by the tablecloth. The table hides what the world had defined him by for his entire life. When he sits there, he's no longer the broken one. He's no longer the forgotten exile. His deepest insecurities are shielded by the king's provision, and at that table, he is treated simply, beautifully, like a son. This is exactly what true grace looks like. When the king calls your name today, he isn't calling you out to shame you in front of everyone, he is calling you in to sit with him. And importantly, this seat, it is not earned. You are not being asked to compete with everyone else in the room for a spot, and you absolutely do not have to somehow magically clean yourself up first to be worthy of taking a seat. The invitation comes while you are still in hiding. Furthermore, it is not deserved. Actually, scratch that. It's not about deserving at all. Grace carries you into the palace when you literally cannot walk in on your own 2 feet. You don't deserve the seat at the table based on your own merit, your resume, or your good deeds. Your invitation is based entirely on a covenant of love that goes far, far beyond anything you could ever do or achieve. It is a gift, pure and simple. So the absolutely incredible truth we must take away from this explainer today is this: the table is already set. The question isn't whether or not there is a place for you. The invitation to leave your emptiness, to finally leave your personal Lodabar behind, has already been given. There is a beautifully prepared seat with your name on it, not because you're perfect, not because you have it all together, but simply because the king is exceptionally kind. So I leave you with this. Knowing all of this, knowing that the table is set, that your brokenness is covered, and that the king's kindness is infinitely greater than your deepest fear, will you step out of hiding? Will you leave the void behind, walk through those palace doors, and finally come and take your seat at the table?